Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Hardcore Human Design Podcast. Thank you for tuning in again if you've been here before, and thank you for tuning in if this is your first time. Today, we're going to be discussing the generational planets, the slower moving planets in your chart, which doesn't mean that it has nothing to do with you. It still affects you. But the lower we go within these planets, the more it is impacting the planet as a whole or the generation that you were born in, instead of just being very personal to you. Would you like to start with the first planet? So last time we did the upper planets. So we started with the sun and the earth, and we went down to the nodes, the north node and the south node. We then spoke about the moon, Mars, Venus, Mercury, and today we're starting with Jupiter.
Wow, that was a fantastic intro. No, that was it. I just thought it was a fantastic intro.
Yay!
Yeah, amazing. Hey guys. Yeah, so we are starting with Jupiter today. The very quick little blurb I have about Jupiter is that essentially this is where your blessings are, your gifts, and a space for expansion within your chart and within your world. Other than the sun, no object exerts greater influence, right? Like Jupiter's huge, if you want to pronounce the H. And this is a significant planet in our world, right? So highly recommend checking out your Jupiter in your chart, diving a little bit deeper into that. And I guess is my chart up? No, just a chart is up. Oh, amazing.
That was the Just Now chart.
The Just Now chart. Yeah.
Here we have your chart.
Thank you. Too kind. Yeah. So both of my Jupiters are in gate 40. However, my conscious is in 40.2 and my unconscious is in 40.3. So let's explore a wee bit there. So gate 40 coming out of my ego center, going down towards the emotional solar plexus. This is a point of transition between struggle and liberation, also referred to as the gate of aloneness. Oh my God, how is this my gift now that I'm reading into this? Oy. I'd love some insights into this because that sounds absolutely terrible. So basically, my gift is be alone and all will be okay. Actually, that sounds amazing. Let's be real.
So, in Jupiter, I'm going to first explain a little bit about the planet, a little bit more about the planet. So Jupiter and Saturn kind of usually always have to be seen together in some way, shape, or form, because Jupiter is basically the polarity of Saturn. In Jupiter, we have expansion, opportunity, and material matters. And Saturn is known for limitations, restraint, discipline, focus, and also pain. So you can already see the topics are very different. The Saturn is more about introspection, going inwards, whereas Jupiter is more about the outer world. So it can reflect your wealth and your external expansion and growth, whereas Saturn is, as I said, more about the internal aspects. The thing that you always say about Jupiter and Saturn is basically if you don't obey your Jupiter gates, you will be punished by your Saturn gates. So you take a look at what Jupiter is, which gates Jupiter is in, and then you will be able to see, for example, if you take a look at your conscious Jupiter, you then take a look at your conscious Saturn, and you will understand how the conscious Saturn will punish you if you don't obey the laws of your Jupiter gate, of your conscious Jupiter gate. And you can do the same thing with your unconscious Jupiter and unconscious Saturn. So Jupiter shows our personal boundaries, and it definitely is the law that you should try to abide to. In the conscious aspect of your Jupiter, It is about how you can attain wealth, growth, and riches if you abide to these rules. And if you do take a look at the Jupiter cycle, it cycles around 11 or 12 years. So it takes quite some time to move through the mandala or to move around the mandala wheel. And so you can see that it's a very slow-moving planet. It takes approximately 3 weeks, and it can take up to 6 months in one gate. So again, very slow-moving planet. So just bear in mind that even on the unconscious side, this is showing you yet another rule that you need to abide to, and that you really need to act with integrity regarding this. One thing I would like to mention when it comes to human design is that we can get lost, and we've mentioned that before, but we can get lost in diving deeply into our chart, and sometimes we try to fulfill all of these elements with our mind, but that's not how it works. That's why we always try to remind you of following your strategy and authority, because then everything else in your chart will fall into place. So we can get to understand and learn from the other gates, but we can't really force this understanding into our life. So the best way to just have it flow naturally is really by following your strategy and authority. That was my little 2 cents on Jupiter / a tiny little bit about Saturn.
That's super impactful though. Because again, just seeing this through the lens of my chart and knowing the 1333, oh man. I think it's just interesting to see it in that way, right? So like the gate of aloneness, the gates of listening. Very interesting to kind of just reflect on that from that POV. Sounds like I need to live in my own little bubble.
And Celestina just became a monk.
I don't think I could take a vow of silence though.
No, that would be counterproductive for a manifestor, I would say.
For sure. All right, cool. Any insights that you want to reflect on with your Jupiter, Saturn for this example?
Oh, it's in my, well, see. It's in my 51st gate, which is also my Earth, my unconscious Earth gate. So just if I don't follow this rule, if I don't follow my Jupiter rule, I also don't find grounding in my physical body. So it just increases the challenges that I have. It's about the 51st gate is about the gate of shock. So it doesn't mean that I should go around shocking people willy-nilly all the time, but it's more about really, again, stepping into this, and I have the full channel. So it's again about stepping into the 25th 51 channel energy, which is a very impactful energy towards others and towards myself. It's about transformation. It's about change. It's about it's often connected to shamanism as well, because shamans are known to take things from the earth and transform them through their rituals as well. So definitely something I need to look out for. And it's in my Jupiter's in line 6, which is also my profile. And the Earth 51.2 is in line 2. So again, just one is pulling me more into the hermity mode, and the other one is pulling me more into the being a role model aspect. So I have to really take both of these things into consideration when it comes to this gate. And I don't have either one in detriment or exaltation. So sometimes the exaltation is in times of crisis, when all those around are confused and in disorder, the ability not to succumb to panic, but to have the will and vitality to survive it alone, the power of the ego to meet challenges alone. This is the exaltation. And the detriment is, curiously, the same gift, but one by its attitude that invites disapproval, that in the extreme may even prevent a successful separation. The egoism to meet the challenge alone that may provoke and empower the challengers. Definitely see that. I do know that when I have a panic situation, a very, very, very stressful situation where a lot of people would lose their heads, funny enough, these really are the moments where I am extremely calm. As an example, I once had a motorbike accident and I crashed into the railing. This was my driving lessons, my motorbike driving lessons, and I was following my driving instructor, but I had to brake for a very long time, and this was my first time back on the bike. So I tried to follow him. He was on his bike and I tried to follow him, but he was accelerating so fast that I couldn't really keep up. So I crashed. And another woman was coming towards me in her car and she saw the crash. And my motorbike instructor then took quite a lot of time to come back. But when she saw me crash, she ran to me and the first thing she wanted to do was rip off my helmet. And I was able to calmly explain to her, no, we have to wait. I have to check if everything is okay. Because when someone crashes on a motorbike, and if you don't know that, do not pull off their helmet because this can cause severe damages in the vertebrae, in the skull. So you have no idea what kind of shock and damages happened to that person. Pulling off the helmet is something that only a professional should do. And in this situation, I was the one calming her down. So I was in severe pain. I've never been in that much pain before. But I was the one still able to calm her down because she saw the crash and she was extremely, fluttered.
Distraught?
She was all over the place, basically. And I've had several situations similar to that where I can really remain extremely calm. So I find that interesting to have this aspect inside of me as well.
I have several instances where we've been in person and nothing that crazy has happened, but I would agree. I feel like you do stay pretty chill even when things are not ideal. And that also helps everyone else around you. So, thank you.
Well, it's not something I did. It's apparently in my blood.
Just there.
But thank you. I appreciate it. No, of course, you could always, this, as with everything in human design, the more that you follow your strategy and authority, the more these things also come out from within you. They just manifest. But also it is connected to doing the work. So what we mean by that when we say that is to do self-reflection, to practice mindfulness, meditation, yoga, whatever it is that makes you feel balanced. It can also be art or dancing or things like that. Really connecting with your inner self is extremely important to also be able to manifest all of these aspects within you. Saturn. Would you like to introduce Saturn?
Yeah, you basically touched on this as the opposing planet to Jupiter. But basically, this is where your challenges lie in life, especially before the age of 29, right? So especially before your Saturn return, a lot of the challenges can present themselves. This also has a bit to do with discipline and where you deal with the consequences of your actions, right? So as just reiterating what Miko said, if you're not listening to what the gates in your Jupiter are describing and you're not following those rules, then you will see this appear in your Saturn.
Absolutely. And this kind of goes for both sides, the conscious and the unconscious, to just understand what it is that you need to be disciplined and persistent about. So there's not really a big difference, just that the design aspect is more connected to your physical body and the mind, the conscious aspects are more connected to your mind aspects.
To use mine as an example, since you have it up, I find this very interesting because even though I'm a manifester and I have access, like very easy access to like using my throat, I feel like I am a really good listener. And oftentimes, if I'm in a friendship where like I'll just let people talk because I know they need it, you know? And like sometimes I won't even give my 2 cents. Like there are phone calls that I have with like 2 of my really good friends, and it'll be like an hour phone call. I may have gotten like 5 minutes of talking in because I hold space for them. So yeah, that's really interesting that it is where it is. And I've kind of always been like the ear for people. Again, even as a manifester with access to my throat.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Yes, she's a very good listener. And just to take this as an example as well, now that we do have it pulled up. So what happens if you don't follow the rules of Jupiter? Then in this example, the Fellowship of Man line 6, in the exaltation, it is the energy to persevere, unlimited hope, the hope that openness will lead to better relationships. So if she does follow her Jupiter rules, then she will have the exalted energy for this gate. And you could also look at the gene keys, and you can look at the shadow aspects of gate 13. If Celestina doesn't follow her Jupiter rules, then she will fall into the detriment, where it is about being naive, the translation of mutual interest into universality, the belief that mutual interests can be projected on others. So just as an example, you can look at these both sides, and you will find out more about your chart as well. Uranus. Would you like to introduce Uranus?
Uranus, however you want to say it. It's a fun one.
I feel like it had to come.
All of the jokes in like 5th grade, right? Like when, I don't know, people started learning, oh my gosh, Uranus. Anyway, the
Uranus. Let's
Uranus.
go with Uranus.
So some of the words wrapped around Uranus, wow, I don't know what my mouth was doing there, are instability, revolution, where you're unusual or a little bit weird. So your quirks come out in Uranus. Can't not laugh. But it's a quirky planet.
Yep. I mean, even after 6th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, whatever, it makes people laugh. Okay, that's good. So it is definitely a quirky planet. I like to look at that one. It is in the conscious side, a unique insight that you have that can or cannot be explained. And it's a skill for you to create something new. So because this is something that is unique to you, it is also your power to be innovative and create something that no one else has done before, because this is very unique to you. So you do have 64 gates. Yes, I get that. But within these 64 gates, you have 6 lines that can differentiate these gates further. So even then, you would have a different line aspect to it than someone else with the same gate in their Uranus. Then you have an exaltation or a detriment, which can take place within your chart sometimes, so that also differentiates it. And then you have your color, tones, and bases, which are also either divided into 6 lines or 5 lines. So it has or you don't say lines to that, but colors, tones, or bases. But it is so unique to you to just look at one of these planets and one of these influences that the planet brings. And then, of course, you need to take the whole rest of the chart into account as well. So with all of that mix, you can create your own unique spark in the world. Then the unconscious aspects. This is where you can take a look at how you can support society. And it is also where you may feel unhappy or caged due to this topic. So do take a look at this unconscious aspect within your chart as well. If you do feel unhappy or caged at the moment, or just generally, and try to understand again the shadow and the light aspect of this gate, and try to understand how you can move it into a different direction. Would you like to say something else or move to Neptune?
So with these, right, the generational planet aspect of it, from my design date to my personality date, it's literally just 0.1 different. Is that typical? For example, in my design, 54.3 for Uranus. And in my personality, it's 54.2. That 0.1 difference, is that pretty typical when you're getting into these generational gates?
Yeah, because it's super slow, the movement of these planets. So as you can also see, the Pluto is often very close to the line as well that you see. So that's a very slow moving planet. And even with Uranus, it also moves quite slow. I don't have the exact times of Uranus at the moment, but I did somehow write in my notes how slow Neptune moves, which takes 165 years to move through all the gates, which is very slow. So for Neptune, for example, it would be very likely that within 3 months, not much changes.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then on top of that, sometimes planets are retrograding, so in these aspects, they are just stuck in one line for quite some time.
Cool. Yeah, super helpful. Alrighty. On to Neptune. Neptune. Alright, so words around Neptune. Illusion and spirituality. It could feel like things are elusive in your Neptune. Miko usually refers to it as like a veil, but it's also like where you need to learn to surrender and can provide fantastic insights for you as well.
Yes, I do like the word veil because that gives you the opportunity to lift it. And that's also what you're here to do. It's not something that is entirely hidden to you, but it's just veiled. And sometimes you get a glimpse of it and other times you just don't. But you're actually here to unveil it, especially your conscious Neptune. I also see in my notes just now that it can stay in a gate for up to 3 years. So no surprise if you have the same line or gate. Definitely, most likely the same gate. Doesn't have to be, but it's just a high likelihood that it does happen. It also shows in your conscious aspect. I'm not sure if I said conscious earlier, but I did mean conscious earlier. We're on the conscious Neptune aspects right now. So it is a topic that you need to unveil in the conscious aspect, and it is also your entrance point into your spiritual path. If you feel ready to it, or if you have already stepped onto it, maybe you can find some more information on why you stepped into it or what happened to Neptune, when you stepped onto your spiritual path. Maybe take a look at the year that it happened, or if you do know the month or the day that it happened, take a look at that as well. And it provides you with insights on how to step out of duality. So this is again pointing towards the spiritual and material aspects in life, but it is also something that you cannot control or guide. So don't try to do that because that is not going to help you. It's just going to frustrate you. This is something that you can gain more insights on by looking at your chart, but it is again something that you can't force. And the unconscious aspect of Neptune this is the aspect that will help you look behind the veil. So if you were asking yourself, how can I look behind the veil? How can I lift the veil? There is your answer. You can take a look at your unconscious Neptune and you will find what can support you in lifting that veil. But this is also one aspect that is most likely the most unconscious aspect in your chart. Because, as we said, it is veiled and it is unconscious in your chart. So this is really also going to need a lot of self-reflection and a lot of self-observation, a lot of practice and stepping into aspects like mindfulness, meditation, all of those things, energy-based practices.
I feel like we've been on my chart for a hot minute. Can we see yours?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Here. Neptune.
Now I can snoop.
Gate 58, the joyous, the gate of vitality. Very funny, universe. So this is something that I keep being reminded of over and over again, especially in the recent months, that I do need to step more into the fun and joyous aspects in life. And I do feel that I became more serious in the last, I don't know, I would say 10 years maybe, something along those lines. But it is for sure an aspect that I need to dive deeper into again. And I do believe that kids are going to play a big part of that, or that they generally do play a big part of that. So the more that you connect with kids and observe them, the more you will also feel this pure joyousness within yourself again as well. So yes, this is stimulation is key to joy. For me, this is definitely yet another point showing me also why that has been difficult for me, because it was veiled, or it is veiled to me, but it is something that I'm stepping more and more into as well. And as always, when it comes to happiness and joy, it comes down to creativity as well, because creativity is a way for you to release whatever is inside of you. And it is a very pure and also meditative aspect that you can connect with, because when you're stepping into creativity, you're stepping out of your mind and you're stepping more into your inner self and or into your body. Anything else you would like to add?
No, but I like seeing it through a different lens, right? Because you're just like, oh, yep, that checks.
Yeah, I mean, as you can see, my own personal chart, I hate to be a cliche projector, but in this aspect, I do, when I look at my chart, I also don't remember it. I go over it. There are aspects in other people's chart which I have very easy connection to, and I can remember quite a few aspects, even though I prefer not to speak about a person's chart without having it in front of me, because sometimes you remember things wrong and then you don't want to give the wrong information. So it's always best to only talk about a chart for me to have it in front of me. But I can remember other people's charts more easily than I do myself, my own chart. And that is what projectors are known for, that they are here to learn through the other and not necessarily through themselves, even though I do believe there is a mix of both of these things. So it is very important to connect with your inner self, but I seem to do that more in a self-reflective and traditional ancient practices instead of looking at my human design chart. But I do like to see the transits and how they impact me, and so it's a bit of a mix. But always interesting to have these aha moments and be like, okay, yeah, I get it.
Totally. Alrighty. And
Pluto.
last but not least, even though it's not taught in schools anymore that Pluto is a planet, for all intents and purposes, right here, right now, Pluto is a planet.
And in my heart. Always.
All right, so wrapping some words around Pluto, it brings the potential for truth, for growth, for transformation, and Pluto's deepest lesson is to find the light within the darkness. And I feel like that really wraps out, I mean, there's technically one more, but this really wraps out like what a generational planet is, right? Like, think of how impactful, let's just take the last 70 years, right? From boomers to Gen Y to Gen X to Gen Y, which are millennials, and then Gen Z, and then now Gen Alpha, right? Like, all of these generations are vastly different, and in part due to where Pluto was located. And not that we're never going to understand another generation, but we definitely understand our generation and the mission that our generation is here for a lot more clearly than other generations, right? So I just think that that's really cool that in part we can align in that way. And I'm pretty sure yours, Miko, you're a few years older than I am, but yours is slightly different than mine. Your Pluto, I think, is in 44. Yeah. 44 and 45 respectively.
44.5 for me and 44.2 unconscious, and for you 43.5 and 43.2. Oh, we're flipping our lines.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of cool, but like it's still relatable. So I think that that's really cool, but it's very interesting to see the shift as you get further and further apart from like generationally, right? Just really cool. So provide us with some more insight on the truth, growth, and transformation that Pluto provides us.
Thank you. Yes, I would love to. So I mean, you already covered the basics and the most important parts of it. And I think, to me, what always comes to mind is Shiva when I think of Pluto, the destroyer. But if you do know Shiva, it's not about destroying for the sake of destroying. It is about having something break down, crumble, burn to ashes, to then rise again like a phoenix. So often when something breaks down, and this is definitely something that I observe in my own life, and I've stopped being upset about it. I've stopped getting frustrated about things when things don't work out, or when things break, especially when I have to sell something or I have to give it away, or I don't know, things like this. I'm like, okay, but it gives space to something new. There's a reason why something like this happens. And most of the time, it just provides you with another stepping stone to something bigger, something better, something that will support you even more in life. So in your conscious aspect, this is where you can find your inner truth and where you can find clues regarding the topics of death and rebirth. So if you do have fears of death, and it's interesting in mine because mine comes from the 44, which is the connection in the spleen. And the spleen is often very concerned about such aspects, about especially survival. And I don't really have that, honestly. I don't really have fear of death. I don't have, and back in the day when I was a teenager, I mean, yeah, I rode a motorbike, and I swear if I would have gotten that license, I would have probably crashed into the next wall. So again, it was a blessing in disguise that I crashed that motorbike the way that I did, because I went into the motorbike store and I said, I want the best outfit, the best helmet for me to go 300 kilometers an hour on my motorbike. I also wanted a Honda CBR or a Kawasaki Ninja or stuff like that. So you can already...
Tell me you learned how to ride a motorbike in Germany without telling me you learned how to ride a motorbike in Germany. 300 kilometers an hour. Crazy.
Yeah, that was my mindset back in the day. So yeah, fear of death didn't really exist. Now it's like, maybe not so fast. But it's the fear of death itself, to me, because I also believe in rebirth. I believe that you try to do the best that you can in this lifetime, and you keep evolving and keep growing. And this is my mission in life, to every day at least try to get a little bit better than I was yesterday. And that if I do manage to do this in every single lifetime, at some point I will reach a state of enlightenment. And this is just my personal belief system, my personal opinion. And enlightenment is, I feel like it has a really bad reputation, or it is looked upon in a negative way. But it basically, to me, it means that you really have this pure connection to source without being influenced with low vibrations that you have in your body or from society or things like that. You're just very, very pure and calm and balanced and blissful. So this is what I consider enlightenment. Not being reactive, just being full of love. And yeah, fear of death, not really a thing inside of me. But if you do have that, then please do take a look at your conscious Pluto and see what gate is there, what may help you to come out of that. And regarding the unconscious Pluto, this is the gate through which we will find inner truth, and where you can evolve and transform your darkness into light, as Celestina already mentioned. So these are the main aspects regarding the generational planets. And as you can see, yes, we've mentioned that already, but the further we went down the line, the more and more, the slower the planets move, and the more it is impacting the generation as a whole.
So my husband and I were born like 28 days apart, and the last, like, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are basically all the same on our charts. Yeah. Like, save like one line. You know what I mean? Like, in either direction. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't connect the dots.
Oh, yeah.
That you guys were born so close together.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool.
Kind of crazy.
Definitely crazy.
This was cool. I hope you guys liked this. I feel like this time we had our shit together a little bit better too, when we weren't as everywhere. But I think the generational planets are also less individual and less personal. I mean, they're still very much you, don't get me wrong, but like, you look at it through a different lens, I feel like. So hopefully this was helpful, guys.
I also very much enjoyed it, and I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day, whenever, or evening, whenever you're listening to this. And we hope to see you again soon, and hear from you. If you would like to connect with us, then please message us on Instagram under Heartcore HD. We would love to know what you would like to hear from us next. And thank you very much for listening.
Ciao.
Bye.